presentation, this video. We'll go ahead and start with our four-way test in just a minute. And there's our bell. And the four-way test, if you're a Rotarian, you can unmute and say it along with me. You probably don't need the words, but of the things we think, say, and do,
Is it
is it the truth?
Is it
Is
fair
it
to
Is
all?
it fair to all
concerned?
concerned?
Will it
Will
build
it build
goodwill
goodwill and better friendships?
Will it be beneficial to all
concerned? Rock and roll. Rock and roll. I don't see, we got ding, 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 ding. I don't see any other guests by name, but if you're behind a camera, besides our speaker for the day, I don't see any other guests. Let me know if I've missed anyone. Any announcements from the group? Any announcements for the whole group here?
Sam, can I just do a update on the hurricane?
Please.
So basically with our district, Brevard fared pretty well. Sam, down at your end, Fort Pierce has a lot of damage. And they're starting to do some work crews there. Vero Beach, we have operations underway with Disaster Aid USA, where they're doing muck and gut on a whole neighborhood. I think they've done 2 houses already. They started yesterday. They did 2. No, they started Monday. They did 2. Yeah, today's Tuesday, darn. And today they're starting, hoping to get another 2 done today. So we did get hit pretty good, even though we fared far better than the people on the West Coast, of course. And that's where the main focus, of course, is. So
do we have any is there any like scheduling or anything that, like from DACDB, for example, are we putting any schedules like for meetups to do debris removal, things like that?
there are ways to volunteer, and I'll send an email out to the club too.
Okay.
So people know how to do that.
Yeah, I could maybe do something on the weekend.
Yeah. I think in your area, in Fort Pierce especially, they're looking for people like in 2-hour shifts there's a Publix down there where they're looking for people just to help hand food out, basically. So it's a great opportunity for us to do some service projects.
Yeah, totally. I'll who's the president? Do you know off the top of your head? Who's the Fort Pierce?
Will Armand.
And what about
Actually,
Sunrise?
Will is Port St. Lucie, but he's putting together groups to help with Fort Pierce.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So.
And then what about Sunrise Vero? How do they do?
Sunrise, Vero Beach, Stewart Sunrise, or
no, Vero. Don't they do early
Vero
morning?
Beach. Yeah, Vero Beach. So there's 4 clubs in Vero Beach. The area has affected the son of a Rotarian down there. So that was the first house they did. And then across the street was another Rotarian from the evening club. So they did that one second, and then they're just working their way down the street.
Okay. Do we have a trailer thing? Like, remember like last year?
Yeah, we have our disaster. We have 2 in our district. One is owned
Okay.
by the Vero Beach Sunrise Club. The other is owned by the district. The one owned by the district is the one when we had an overage of funds when I was governor in 1819. We purchased an extra disaster trailer. So we have 2 in our district, fully outfitted. We're looking to do a 3rd, which would be a sanitation station, they call it. So basically people would be able to sleep in it, but it would also have like a washer and dryer so they can do laundry and those kind of things.
So awesome. Okay. Kimberly, sorry, good. I didn't mean to keep you waiting.
No, that's okay. I got a text message from Susie. She said she tried to log on from the phone, but she couldn't hear anything. So she should be home in 30 minutes and she'll join then. And Jula, I want to ask you about the cruise. Are there any, do you know if there are any planned events, or are we just going to hang out on the chaise lounges? Because I haven't booked anything because I didn't want it to conflict. We're like an agenda.
We're doing a project when we get to the Bahamas. When working with people in the Bahamas, they strongly in Bahamas time. So we're waiting on them to tell us.
I see.
But basically, we think we have a bus that we're going to rent. It will take us, we'll do a work project for probably an hour, hour and a half. It won't be nothing major. At the Bahamas National Trust. And then from there, we're going to do a cultural tour of the island. We're also doing a project where we're bringing books, and there will be an email go out.
Oh, cool.
My assumption is if you want to do something in the Bahamas, instead of doing this, then go ahead and book it.
Oh, no. I
Um,
purposely want to do I mean, I'm going with a
Yeah.
bunch of rotation. Why would I want to
Yeah.
not?
Exactly, yeah. So that's right now is the plan. When we go to the MSC Island, that is really a day of leisure. There's not a lot there that's owned by them.
Right.
So that one will be a little different, but
Yeah, I do. Yeah, because I didn't want anything to conflict. So
right.
I haven't booked anything.
Yep.
Good. So great. I'm so excited. I can hardly
Yeah,
wait.
me too.
Someplace I've never been. So
Awesome. Good. I didn't know there was one.
well, Friday I leave for the Congo, so that's going to be
Oh,
interesting.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, well,
Good for you.
when they have to send a shooter to pick me up at the airport,
I
I'm
know.
not that
Yeah.
I'm not that jealous. Don't be that
Yeah.
jealous.
Yeah, well, I think that's required by US.
Yeah, because it's through state and AID, so
Exactly.
they
Yep.
have to meet me at the airport with protection.
Yep.
So keep a good thought next week.
I'll keep a good thought. You send pictures.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Well, thanks, Jill. I really appreciate it. Let's move on to I Fix the Planet. Is there anything that anybody would like to share? What we do just for you, Marcy, what we do is we have a hashtag on our social media, and you can post and follow that mention or that hashtag and see updates from all the other ESRAGs globally with Rotary. Anybody have any examples of how they might have fixed the planet in the last 2 weeks? Denise?
Yep. I went to an event the other day and I carpooled with my friends. So we didn't all have to drive our cars there and park and, and everything and do a whole lot of pollution. So, yeah, we carpooled and that was good. And I'm not quite sure if it really is fixing the planet, but I did donate to a nice farm in Australia of a family that, takes care of wildlife and everything. And,
Wow.
that sort of, when they find wallabies or but they have wombats. If they find them, they foster them and they, make sure that they're healthy again and, sort of rehabilitate them.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So I saw the videos and I was, pregnant me being, I was crying, seeing a little girl being chased by her wombat, and, I fell in love with the family. So I just donated.
Great. That's great. Anybody else? I don't want to cut you off. All right. How about let's do if you have a happy buck, sad buck, or birthday anniversary, you can scan the code on the screen for Venmo. But let's do birthdays and anniversaries. How about that? All right. Let's go down to the valley. So sad bucks, then we'll come back up to the mountain. Go ahead, Denise.
I have a couple of sad bucks, unfortunately. First off, tomorrow I'm gonna bring my pet bunny to a different home because my other I had two bunnies and one of them passed away unfortunately in August, and it's just the one that's left. And as hopefully most people know, you're not supposed to keep bunnies just by themselves because they're very friendly animals that need another animal besides them. So I have been searching for a home, and that's, I guess in a way you could say it's a happy dollar as well. I found a nice place that will take her in, make sure she gets neutered, and then they're going to find another friend for her that she's going to be paired with. So when she gets adopted again, she can go with her friend to a different spot, which is good. But I'm just sad of sort of giving her up, so to say. But yeah, I think it's best for her. So yeah, I'm sad about that. And the other sad dollar is that my sister's cat is missing. So that's, you know, it's just he disappeared he's been gone since Saturday morning, and we can't find him anywhere, and it's in a forest area, so it doesn't make any sense. He should be able to get back home, but he didn't. So, and it's just a not knowing where he is that's the worst. If you know that he passed away or anything, you can get closure, but the fact that he's just missing, that's horrible. So yeah, sad dollars.
I'm sorry. Um, what about happy bucks? Anybody want to go to happy bucks?
I'll do one, Sam.
Sure.
I'm happy and thankful that we did do so well in the storm, but tonight I'm really happy because we are doing the polio ice cream fundraisers. And tonight I'll be eating ice cream in Vero Beach if anybody wants to join me.
Which one is that? Is that at a Culver's, or where are they doing it?
That one is at Justin's.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Very good. That sounds great. Um, I think if that covers it, we can probably go ahead and turn it over to our you made a point to say facilitator. So should we say our guest facilitator? Is that a better way to do it, Marcy?
That probably works because I think
Yeah.
this is a conversation.
Good.
Well, it's nice to be back with you all. We had kind of started this conversation a month ago, I think, is when it was, and then you guys had kind of changed your schedule, so there was some confusion about that. Anyways, my name is Marcy Ullom. I am a past district governor from 6990, which is South Florida. It's literally right below. It's Broward, Dade, Monroe County, and Grand Bahama Island. When I moved up here to 6930, with all due respect to the great Rotarians in this district, because I had been so involved in leadership, I wanted to stay connected to my peeps. So worked with a bunch of people who had actually become expats, and so we launched a virtual club. I think the reason that Susie and I met at one of the events that Jula had put on with part of her training efforts as incoming governor. And Susie and I had this discussion about kind of the interesting challenges and attributes of virtual clubs. And so she said, so I was saying, here are some of the things we were doing to try to bridge that gap. And she said, would you come talk to our club? So in my mind, I'm going to just tell you what we're doing. In my mind, we're all kind of problem solving, because while we may do some things, you guys do other things. And so I think it's a matter of how can we work together to figure out the best practices. So let me just ask this question, though, because everybody comes at a virtual club for very different reasons. If you were in a traditional club, why did you move over? Why did you go to a virtual club? And what were your expectations of being in a virtual club?
I can start if you want. I have been a Rotarian, like maybe 10 years, I guess now, but several clubs. And I started in a normal club, in a traditional club, a face-to-face club.
I hope you guys are normal.
Well, one of them wasn't very normal, I guess, but I started in Alaska and then moved to China, got connected with a group of expats there. And our meetings were very different, but they were in person. It was once a month, and it was in person, and it was dinner and drinks, and it was fancy schmancy. And it was one of our members was the GM of a very haughty, fancy hotel in China. And then when COVID happened, I came back here and I was looking to reconnect, but COVID prevented us all from meeting, really. And so that was the impetus for me, was to join something online, because there was really no other option. And a lot of clubs hadn't quite figured that out yet whenever I came to Florida. And Carol, I don't know if you know Carol, but Carol from the Gardens, Palm Beach Gardens Rotary Club, she was the first that I hooked up with at the time. I was living in West Palm. And then Carol suggested that I meet Jula, and then Jula and I came to the conclusion that this was a great fit, and it was just all the time online. And that was good for me because, so here's the answer, because honestly, just taking a once a week 2-hour lunch is just really difficult. Like really, really difficult. I don't know how people do it. I don't know how I did it before. I think it was just because my company had supported me, and I was like, every Tuesday or Thursday. Yeah. Every Thursday I had a 2-hour lunch, and everybody was like, geez, Sam, but my boss supported it. So I think that's my big reason. And I think this is like, it's the future. I just don't know if Rotary demographics have caught up with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think Like this is just how people do social
Right.
now, you know?
And it's different. And so we have to, I
Very.
think we have to pay attention to that. Kimberly.
Well, I moved from Florida where I was in a club with Susie and Jula for quite a while and miss them desperately. And when we talked after I had moved and they said they were setting up this virtual club, I would follow Jula anywhere. So it didn't really matter where she was going. Susie and Jula are like, they're like awesome, totally. And I would follow them to the moon and back. So it worked out perfectly for me because I live up in the panhandle of West Virginia now. And I know there's a club somewhere, but I travel a lot for work. As you may have heard, I'm going to the Congo on Friday. And so this is perfect for me because if I can sign in
Mhm.
from where I am, that's really helpful. I have to say, as much as I like being a member of this club, I do find it, maybe because I'm an old fuddy-duddy, I do find that I miss my lunches and my sitting around the table, and I don't feel like I'm as participatory as I might be because it's hard to do a project. I can't fly down every weekend and have ice cream
Right.
with Jula and do a project.
All right. Jula. You're on silent, dear.
There I am. I just said, am I muted? So basically I wanted to start an e-club back when I was a governor, but of course I think everybody here knows I had cancer my governor year and nothing I wanted happened that year. But it was always a dream of mine to do an e-club once I started hearing about them because of the time. I mean, I was still working full time. So like Sam, for me to take literally to go to our club, it was like a 35 to 40-minute ride each way. And then you've got to have the meeting and then you shoot the breeze after. So literally I was taking 3 to 4 hours out of every Wednesday. It just wasn't working for me professionally. My second half of my e-club dream was to make it a multi-country, which
Mhm.
we did, obviously. Pros and cons, I love these people. I think it's great. People think you can't have fellowship, but I've gotten to know several people because of this that do not live in the United States and that do live in the US but away from me. So I think that was a big bonus for me. The drawback now is having lost my husband. I'm alone a lot. So sometimes I tend to want to go back to the traditional, like Kimberly, just to be around people.
Mhm.
So I'm struggling with that piece, honestly. I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to be around people.
Right.
Now, as a governor, it works because I'm in clubs 2 or 3 times a week, every week. Tonight I'll be with a club. Thursday, I've got a club. Friday and Saturday, I'll be in Boca for 2 different clubs. So that helps. But once you're not governor anymore, that tends to slow down. So I'm on the fence of what I want to do, whether I want to actually leave the club and go to a traditional club or whether I want to stay with the club and just be a visiting Rotarian everywhere I go. I miss doing projects. I miss
Right.
it.
Well, you can be governor forever, Jula. I vote for that.
Yeah,
No.
I'm not sure Jula would.
No.
So Dave or Linda or Gail? Gail, is that how I pronounce that? Not to put you on, or Denise, not to put you on the spot, just asking, making sure you have an opportunity to talk.
Hey, this is
Oh.
Linda. Oh, go ahead, Denise. And
No,
then-
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say for me, if I had to go to a traditional club, I wouldn't be in Rotary. Just
Mhm.
because, similar to Sam, I can't take off 2 hours for a
Right.
lunch. And very often my calendar's just all over the place. I don't have a set calendar just because of my work. So for me, this works out well because I don't have to pay a fine when I miss because I know I'm going to miss meetings. And traditional clubs typically charge, a fine, and it just would be almost impossible for me to be a Rotarian. I think, I wish there was an opportunity or a way for us to do more projects together. And I know that's difficult from a distance. So I think, maybe we put our heads together and think about what can we do as a club virtually for
Mhm.
a project. So I think there are things we can do. We just need to put
Right.
our heads together and talk about that.
Denise?
Well, for me, this is my first Rotary club that I've joined. So I just know virtually, but I have some experience from my dad's side because he's a Rotarian. He has a traditional club here in the Netherlands. For me, the pros are that, it's not that much of a time bother, so to say. It's easy. I can just log in for an hour and off, just like Sam and Linda said. So it doesn't take an entire evening for me, because usually traditional clubs in the Netherlands are evening clubs. And knowing what my dad did, he was gone all Wednesday evening usually. He went at 5:30 and he came back at like 10 in the evening. So it's an entire evening filled thing. So
Well, I
that
think
that
they were
works.
doing more than Rotary.
No,
I
it's
think they're doing a lot
Rotary.
of socializing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is Rotary, there is a speaker, there's dinner, of course, and there's
Right.
socializing, but yeah, generally he left at 5:30 and came back at like 10. Um,
Wait,
so yeah,
Denise, where
so
are you
that's
from?
just some the Netherlands.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I think internationally we see evening clubs. It is a whole evening because there's a
Yeah.
whole lot of fellowship involved, right?
Yeah, so Rotary is not very common to be a lunch or breakfast club here. It's mostly evenings. So there might be, but I haven't heard of them. But yeah, so I couldn't do that, not every week. Then again, Rotary mostly isn't every week here in the Netherlands. It's usually sometimes once a month or every 2 weeks. Um, so that's a difference. So I have debated, because several clubs have asked me to join here in the Netherlands, but for now I figured I like doing this because it's easier, and especially with me being pregnant, having a baby in a couple months. I think it's easier to be at home, to be able to log on online. And as a bonus, it costs less money. So it's quite expensive in the Netherlands. Of course, the just being a member is expensive, but then going out, you have to pay for your dinner, you have to pay for your drinks, and generally speaking, it is a cost. So and it's not something that I have the liberty to do every 2 weeks, unfortunately. So
Right.
yeah.
I think the people who are members of my club, we're 22 or 3, and somebody's getting ready to join. We typically have about 16 at every meeting. We meet at 7:30 on Tuesdays. We do that so that we did have, typically our folks are Canada, Eastern Seaboard, and Europe. We did have a member who was in Australia. The problem is that between our time changes and her time changes, it was like midnight half the time. And she was a young girl who was she was a former exchange student who had joined. So she was involved for 2 or 3 years, and then she just said, I can't. I've got 2 jobs, I'm going to uni, and it's meeting at midnight. So I will say one of the things we worked very hard at, and we were very concerned about, had to do, so there were a couple of things that we did. And this is me being an old traditional 33-year Rotarian, is I think Rotary is a habit. For me, Rotary is a habit. So there were discussions about, oh, we can only meet once a month. And I said, well, then the month that I can't go for whatever reason, I have a conflict, then it's 2 months before I get to see people. They talked about every other week. I kind of had the same. And fortunately, there were other people who felt the same way. And again, it's because some of our expats are longtime Rotarians who are very used to that. We're going to see each other weekly. And we also thought 7:30 in the morning, for us, it's before people go to work. The people in Europe were either retired or they worked from home, so they were okay. People in South America are calling in from their office. So we do a couple of things that we really focus on engagement. At the last Tuesday of every month, and we alternate. We either have a club assembly where we talk about what's going on in the club, issues, challenges, what we want to do, et cetera, or we have a social. And there are lots of virtual socials that you can do that are just fun. So I don't know if you guys have tried any of that, but we do it every other month. So we know that we'll have speakers 3 or 4 weeks, depending on if it's how long that month is. And then we'll have that time. In a traditional club, for those of you who've been in traditional clubs, you don't have a club assembly but once a quarter. So you may or may not know what's going on. Because we're a small club. Even with small clubs that are traditional, I don't think you have club assemblies that are probably more than once a quarter. But here you have people are very involved. That's also the feedback that we have from members, is that they feel very involved. They feel like they know what's going on. They feel like they have a say in what happens, where maybe in other clubs they didn't. If they weren't an officer, they may or may not. The other thing that we do for social purposes, and again, this is strictly engagement, is we open up what we call, I think it's called Rotary Round Robin Reach Out. It's a bunch of R's. And somebody else was organizing it, and then I took up organizing it this year. So you volunteer to sign up, and what you do is you're paired up, and for 6 weeks you meet with one person, and you meet once a week. You have a 30-minute conversation, or 15 or 20 or whatever works. But the idea is to get to know you a little bit better, to know each other a little bit better. And we don't have everybody involved in that, because a lot of people have very crazy kind of careers, but we have a good number of people involved, and then we'll rotate after 6 weeks to somebody else. We found that to also be a way, because we're looking at connection. Service. So I heard somebody talk about service. Several of you talked about service. What do you do now for service?
I personally volunteer with other clubs
Right.
because we don't really do anything as a club for service. We haven't for a while.
We send money.
Yeah, I think that's a big challenge for an international club. So for a virtual club.
And
So
that's-
we do a couple of things. We actually have a spreadsheet, and we redefine service so that, service in my old days was you went out and spent a Saturday at Habitat, or you went and read at somebody's school, or you worked soup kitchen, or you did something like that. And so what we did is we actually expanded that to that concept to say, if you're doing something though for Rotary, and I'm not talking about if you're an officer in the club, or I wouldn't be talking about Jula as governor. She couldn't count those hours, but but I think if you're doing something like you're very involved with, here's an example. If you're very involved with running your RLI in your district, or I do a tremendous amount of training, curriculum development, and I don't ever count the hours I put in, but I'll put in an hour or two, I'll just kind of count it that way. But we've kind of expanded that concept of so that it's not only service to the community, but it's service to the organization. We have a spreadsheet. We encourage people weekly to go on and to log their hours, because people like Jula will go out and they'll work with another club, or they're involved with some other organization that they support, animal care, or whether you go out because you want to do beach cleanup with whatever's a local beach cleanup, or the Marine Council, for example. And so we encourage people to log that, and we do it for 2 reasons. One is that it helps for people to see that we're doing stuff, for our own members to visually see, oh yes, there are people who are doing things. The second is, what I want to do as a marketing tool is to be able to say to incoming members, because why do most people want to join? They want to join for fellowship, but initially they want to join, or they join typically for service. then they stay because of the fellowship, right? You guys had the best but this is an off thing. You guys had the best marketing tool. And I don't know how long ago it was. It had to be 10 years ago. I mean, Julie, you might remember, but it was a bookmark. And there was a young woman who was a Rotarian in 6930. And they had a picture of her. And the byline was, I came to network, I stayed to change the world. And in my mind, that was like the best marketing tool you could use. And I have used it in other scenarios. But I think when people join for service, they want to see, well, how does a virtual club do service? And so I think that we're saying, like, I think I figured up the other day, in the first quarter, we had something like 80 to 90 hours of things that people had done all on their own, just because they could, right? So that says something. We too want to do a project together as a club. And I think, as Sam said, I think the only way to do that is virtually. And if you do the research, if you've done the research, has anybody looked into that, by the way?
I've tried. I just didn't come up with much.
Yeah, so there are some things. Peace Corps has some things. There are other virtual, oh shoot, I should have pulled this up. I don't know where I can find it right now real quickly. I'll send it to Julie and she can send it out to you guys. But because this year I'm the service chair. But there are some things you can do. Now, you can't, it's hard to do it as a whole club, but like the Peace Corps will have these projects where they'll look for 5 people to do something. And so if you do that, if you can work that out, then that's something. I mean, that would be something that I would be, I mean, I think it would be, I'm happy to share what I found, because I think it's really worthwhile. Because we're also looking at that, on how do we do something together. I think we have to be more creative than a traditional club. And that's really a challenge. Julia?
Just for general information for our club members, our district purchased the app Ignite that works with DACDB, and you can log your service hours right in that app. Now, what you have to do is you have to go to the calendar and create a service project, but it doesn't mean that you can't create for our club a project that says helped other club, or something along that line. And then we can log our service hours and get a true grip on what we're doing for service hours when we do volunteer. You know, like, I don't know, Denise or Gail, if they have Salvation Army over in a lot of places in Europe do, where you can volunteer a couple hours to ring the bell at Christmas time. We could log that as Salvation bell ringing. You know, and I mean, just DACDB will track it all for us. We don't need a spreadsheet. Just a little comment.
Say what?
That was just a FYI.
Oh, no.
comment.
Oh, you said
have
that. I thought Kimberly had said that. Oh, say Kimberly?
I have a friend who's a Rotarian, but he's also now a Peace Corps volunteer teacher in Mongolia. I'm trying to get him as a speaker, but I'm sure if we hooked up with John, there would be things. He does a lot of stuff with his students because he's teaching at a boarding high school there. I guess they board their students a lot more frequently than, because they're also remote, where we might possibly work out something with him and them to do some English speaking games with them online, some virtual stuff online. I'm sure John would love to do that. He's so creative and such a great guy, and having such a wonderful time over there. I'm happy to reach out to him and see if the club thinks that that's something that we might want to pursue. We can do that.
Well, you got one vote.
Oh,
Linda.
thanks, Linda.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where we have to be challenging. I have, there is kind of an FYI, in case you don't know it, there is an e-club fellowship. Now, e-clubs, virtual clubs, I mean, in my mind, they're all the same. I don't know, but the e-club fellowship, and I get information from them periodically. They're not very, they kind of they were established, and then, as often happens, leadership had some family issues and everything kind of fell apart. And that was about the time I was trying to find out, how do I join this group, right? They don't, I'm not sure where they are. They're actually based out of the UK. Okay, I mean, the leadership's in the UK. There's somebody in our club who I had suggested be affiliated with them. But you know, there's a lot of virtual clubs in our zones, 33, 34. And I've often thought of just having periodic meetings, like just identifying them. That's the big thing, identifying them first, and then just having periodic meetings simply to talk about best practices. Like, what do people do? Like, what do you do for, like, we have been talking about fundraising. And we also do a very different thing. Our dues are really cheap, like yours. So what happens is, and I think it's just become the culture in our club, we tend to give more for happy dollars. And then we take that and we would use that to support service. We haven't done that yet, but, and I say we haven't done it yet, in all transparency, it was because the person who was our treasurer didn't abscond, didn't do anything nefarious, but just was a lousy treasurer. So part of it has been, we spent the last 2 months in the transition trying to figure out what we had. But once we do, then we'll, as a group, make a decision about a percentage of that will go to support service. But we've looked at fundraising so that we could support something very specific. And have you guys looked at any kind of fun? Because there's a lot of virtual fundraising stuff.
Yeah, we've done some fundraising, Marcy. We've done it a few times. We did the Gut Sneakers project, where we rounded up sneakers to keep them out of landfills. And we got paid anywhere from 50 cents to $7 a pair for sneakers. We did that for probably a couple of years. We've also done a walk where we each individually got people to sponsor us for walking, and then we use that money to help a school in Nepal. So, I mean, we've done a couple of things like that.
You did all that individually. So you did the walking individually, you did the.
Yeah, the problem with the Gut Sneakers is, like, the people in Europe couldn't help us. They couldn't participate. It was a US based project. So.
Right.
It didn't include, it wasn't inclusive.
Right. Yeah, I think those are the kinds of questions that, I mean, kind of challenges that we have. I mean, there's some virtual ones that are like, they're trivial pursuit kind of based, they're games, they're game things that people would sign up for. And again, one of our members has looked at that. And so we're kind of searching that out, because we're looking at trying to do something more virtual. Interesting idea, Julia, to do something maybe more land-based. And that would be, I'll make a note on that.
Yeah, it's called Gut Sneakers. It was a great little thing, but we got petered out on it, you know?
Right. So you just collect sneakers from.
What happens is they send you like these big 30-gallon heavy duty trash bag like things that's got the postage all on it. You fill the bag, you send it to them, they sift through them. Anything that they can reuse or brand new, they pay you for. Anything they can't reuse, they grind up and keep it out of the landfill. They recycle it, basically.
Oh, okay.
So,
oh, that's good. Oh, that's
so
a good.
Yeah, it was environmental, which is why we kind of did it. It hit the environment. It didn't pay a lot, but whatever we got was money we didn't have.
Right.
While keeping sneakers out of the landfill. Like, I would go hit up tennis clubs and stuff. The tennis people change their sneakers out, I think, every month. But the sneakers they could reuse, they cleaned and sent to developing countries. And they paid us, depending on the brand, up to $7 a pair.
Oh,
So.
great. so I think I look at fundraising as one of the challenges.
Absolutely.
Service is one of the challenges, and we just have to be more creative. What are the other, and again, I think engagement, and I think engagement probably ends up being easier. You guys have gone, I know, to an every other week meeting. And is that just because it's probably you have a lot of, well, you obviously have people still working and you have people who are in Europe who are used to that kind of concept. Are you finding it works?
I think it's kind of new and it's taken people a while to figure out which is the Tuesday.
Right.
So once we get into it, it'll be a little bit easier, I think.
How many people are in your club?
I
20
think,
something?
I think we have
I know.
24 on the roster. No, we
Yeah.
have some that, we have a couple in Washington that I think have only been on the meeting a few times, but pay their dues. And they do a lot of stuff in their community. They're
Right.
not recording it, but they do a lot of service projects, a lot, more than any of us in this club by
Right.
far.
Yeah. So I think if that, and again, if you could track that in some way to
Well,
say
I
that.
think we can now with that Ignite app. It'll make it easier.
Is it something that your district has to buy it, right?
Yes, yeah, and it's not cheap. The district paid $5,000 for it, so every club could have it. It's per member. It's like
Oh.
$3 a member
And is it, then do you have it forever or do you have to do that every year?
every year.
Wow.
But it's a really cool app. If we can get the members using it, it's well worth it because it's
Yeah.
gonna track all our service. It helps you like create directories. So like if you go to Pets and you meet somebody over on the other coast, it'll let you pull in their contact information. Just there's a lot of really good functionality to it.
Right.
And we really believe that it'll be well worth it.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah. I mean, but it's a big chunk of money for a lot of districts. So,
Yeah, it was Marcia.
Right.
Marcia requested that we did it, and it was before we knew that last year's governor went crazy. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened this year.
So what do you think? So it's interesting because now two of you have talked about, well, you might consider going back to more of a traditional club because of the people aspect. How can you perhaps improve what it might be happening here or change what may be happening here? I don't know, right? So,
Well, I have a thought on that. I thought maybe we could start like an impact club. And maybe that would give us people that we could do projects with and kind of solve two problems.
That's
That
a
doesn't
great
help
idea.
Kimberly.
yeah, it doesn't help the people who aren't local. How many of your
Right.
people are local?
Me, Sam, Susie, Ailish, but she wouldn't really do a project. Dave, where are you? You're local, I believe.
He's near Susie, I think.
Yeah, Susie
Local.
definitely is local.
Linda's local.
Linda's local, yeah, because I thought, Linda, you would be someone good to help us find people for the Impact Club.
Yeah, I live in Cocoa.
I thought you were in Cocoa, I
block
couldn't
away from
remember.
Susie.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
you have a good core there. If you're
Sorry,
gonna
right.
Sorry, I'm still having computer problems, so.
Yeah,
Right.
that's okay. Sam is in Fort St. Lucie, so I mean, it's not terribly far, it's over an hour, but if we did a project, even if he came once a quarter, or we did something down his way a couple times a year.
Right. Do you guys have something here called Hands-on Miami or Hands-on Brevard or Hands-on? Do you
I
know what
have-
that?
No, I have an app called Just Serve, where every once in a while, people will come on and say that they need something, and you
Right.
can serve that way.
Yeah.
I think
There-
that's similar.
When I lived in Miami, there was a Hands-on Miami and a Hands-on, I think, Broward. I think it was the county versus just Miami. And what it was literally just a group, just people signed up that if they wanted to do a service project, so it would be the same thing, Julia, where you would just say, here's what we're doing. Do you want to come join us? And they would come out and do that. I don't know if that would work with, if they don't have it here, maybe Rotary could start something like that. Where it becomes like a committee and people, and that way you can build out your impact group instead of it being just an impact club connected to you guys. The other
Right.
thing you might do is a satellite club that meets at a different time. Now that doesn't help the folks who are not here.
Yeah, because a satellite club could be in person.
Yeah. So there's that. So I do think that I think there are interesting options. I think there are lots of things people are doing out there that I'm just not familiar with. And so would anybody be interested in the concept of having a quarterly meeting with other Zoom club members or virtual club, just to find out, what are they doing and how are they doing it?
I would love to come to one of your club meetings.
You all are welcome. You're welcome at 7:30 a.m. Every Tuesday morning. The other thing that we find is, I'll tell you what we have, and sometimes I'm going to be honest, we get lazy about it, but our speakers come from around, right? All over, which I think is a great attribute of being a virtual club. The other thing I will tell you, an interesting thing about a hybrid club, there's a club in South Florida, longtime old club, smaller club, probably about our size, maybe 30. And they obviously went hybrid during the pandemic. They actually stayed hybrid. I think they get together once in a while, but they stayed hybrid because what they realized is that they spoke more to people across the club in a Zoom meeting, like during the social, than they did when people would come in, they'd sit down at a table and they'd only talk to people at the table. That's the other thing we do. Because we have a couple of retired folks in our club, we have a greeter, and Larry comes on at 7 a.m. And then people just log on, and it's just like if you come to your club meeting, your traditional club meeting early, and you walk around, you talk to people and you socialize. For those of us who have done that, that's what he does. And people come in and he banters and carries on the conversation and moves the conversation around from people to people. That's a very cool thing. Now we have that because we have somebody who's retired and can do that. But that's something else that I think tends to lend a lot to people like enjoying being at the club. So it's 12:54, Sam. Sam seemed to have a challenge between recording or audio.
I noticed we lost him and we never do that. Like he never goes to.
Yeah, well, if you look at the chat, he says, I'm stuck with no audio, can't drop because I'm recording, which I didn't realize you couldn't do that if there's something. But unless somebody else has something, I think the whole point, Susie just wanted us to have a conversation about what are the challenges of a virtual club and how are we all dealing with it. So it sounds like we're all having the same kind of challenge, or the same change, and we're dealing with it in different ways. But, for example, service, my service has been virtual, and there's a lot of virtual opportunities. I will send that let me make a note here, Julia, and I will send you a list of stuff that I sent out to my club.
If you could send me your link too.
Yeah, I would love to see some examples, because we tried thinking of things, and we did come up with like an idea for like a seminar or something that people could attend for a small fee, where we would invite speakers, things like that. But I think that's the best idea we came up with. And then it's the fact that you can come up with the idea, but you have to execute it as well. And I think that's where it's sort of dropped
Mhm.
off. So yeah, I would love to see some examples of other clubs, how they do virtual fundraisers. That would be wonderful. See if we can implement them in our club.
Yeah, I think that in the service, like one of the things that I do is called, I think it's called Front Porch. And it's a group out of California. And what they do is they connect you with somebody who is a shut-in or lonely, or they tend to be older. And who really want more interaction, and you talk to them. I mean, the idea is you talk to them for 30 minutes a week, and then you do that for 6 months, and then you can continue on or not continue on. My challenge is the 84-year-old that I'm connected with right now. Well, I adore him. He is fabulous, but he wants to talk for an hour. So that's been my challenge with dealing with that. But I mean, that's an easy one. You know, they just connect you based upon interest and focus and, different kinds of things, hobbies and stuff. And then you just chat. That's all you do. That's pretty easy. There's another one that some people in my club are involved with called Career Village. And it's some kind of a site, I haven't done it, where young people will log, it's like a mentoring coaching site. And so they will log in and they will say, I've got an interview coming up with about X. What would you suggest? How would you suggest I prepare? Or how would you do this? And then people just log in. And people from my club will just log in and they'll say, okay, based upon that's my background. Based upon my experience, here's the things that I think you should be prepared to talk about. So again, I've not done that, but I think there's more out there now that probably came out of the pandemic and we could take advantage of. It's really kind of finding them, but I will find that list and I will sing it to you, and I will send you. Here's the other thing. Do you guys have a newsletter?
Yes, every week.
We
Do
do.
you? Okay.
Yes, Susie, well, every other week now, but Susie does it.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thing that I thought was really important too, was to
Mhm.
have something kind of consistently in front of people.
Mhm.
So there you go, 12:58. Thank you all for joining in the discussion, which is just about how do we improve what we're doing, because for many of us, this works. Like Linda, we don't want to lose Linda as a Rotarian.
No, she's amazing.
So
Well,
Mr.
thank you.
Bourgeois, I turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry I was jammed up. I couldn't chime in on a couple of things that I wanted to say, but I really appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And welcome to 6930, of course, and look forward to maybe seeing you around. If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and stop this call and I'll get the recording posted as well. And Marcy, I'll make sure you can get a copy of it too, just in case you want to go back and revisit anything.
Watch myself? I don't think so. Okay.
We can
Awesome.
all see her again on November 2nd,
Exactly. Exactly.
Port St. Lucie.
The second in St. Lucie. There you go. Good plug.
Thank you all.
All right. Well,
Great
thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Marcy.
Bye, Jula. Thanks.